What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fresh Finance Podcast. My name is Thomas Elms. I've got my co-host here, Kyle Ryan, as always. And today we are going to talk about diversification. But this is going to be a little bit of a different conversation around this topic than I think most people get, because there's a lot more that goes into diversification than the first topic that we'll hit on, which is just kind of diversifying your investments. So we're going to break this conversation down into three different types of diversification. So we're going to talk about kind of the surface level diversification of your investments, having your monies in different places of the market so that you're not all in one basket, right? The second piece is diversifying where the money is actually going into, so different account types. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is diversifying your income streams. So Kyle, just really to start us off here, part one, diversifying within your investments. I'd love to kind of just get your take on this, where your thoughts are and, how you think overall that diversifying your investments out can help people over the long term.
Yeah, I mean, break it down. What it's diversifying your investments really means. It means it's taking a variety of investments that have a different expected rate of return and a different expectation of the risks associated with them, right? So, you don't want to have a portfolio of all tech stocks. Why 2022, right? Because all of a sudden, it's great when tech stocks do well, but when they pull back with some force. Same thing goes for anything. You don't want all of your assets in real estate, all of your assets in technology, you want to have exposure to different areas, because over a market cycle, different things will do well. One thing's not going to lead you through an entire market cycle and through the next one, right? History's shown that. So from an investment perspective, you want to look at how much you have allocated to stocks versus bonds. Cash can even be thrown in there, right? Cash doesn't earn you much, and it's shown to lose you money in an inflationary period, but it also you don't lose money when cash doesn't go from $1 to 99 cents. Cash is worth $1 always. So stability is very important there. So diversifying your investment classes, your investment sectors is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that I look at it is, instead of trying to stay away from the risk, the way that I look at it is you're trying to have your money in every part of the market, right? Just trying to consume the market. And what I mean by that is having investments in large companies, mid-sized companies, small-sized companies, some international exposure, some real estate exposure, and then even on the bond side, having some American bonds, having some foreign bonds. There's different opportunities in the market cycle, as you talked about, where each of those asset classes have the opportunity to provide good upside or good risk-adjusted return. And if you're super selective or super concentrated, you don't get to take advantage of those opportunities. Is just being able to know that, you have your money dispersed between a large number of different types of things. And each of those different things has its own unique characteristic, and sometimes I'll even use sports analogies, right? You're, kind of, as of filming right now, we're kind of right on this NFL playoffs conversation, right? You don't see 11 quarterbacks on the field, right? That would probably cause some issues. You also don't see 11 wide receivers out there as well, and so just having different pieces of your portfolio that play their specific role to essentially develop the common goal of diversifying and creating good wealth opportunities, especially over the long term if you're doing it the right way. So I think that's one of the most important reasons why, you want to take a look at considering making sure that those investments are diversified. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the last thing before we move on to the different types of accounts would be, one pitfall I've seen a lot of investors fall into is, buying a passive ETF, an index ETF of, say the S&P 500, something like that. And that's their only holding. Over the long haul, that's great. You are very well diversified within the US, large cap US stocks. You don't have small caps, you don't have international. So that's just another note I wanted to throw in there. Just because you have a diversified US index fund doesn't mean you have a truly diversified global portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Kind of moving on to section 2 here is diversifying your different account types. And I think this opportunity has really created itself here in the 2000s, the last 20, 23 years, is essentially creating an opportunity where you have monies getting different tax advantages in different account types. And I think that this is something that most commonly doesn't get utilized, especially when somebody is not using a financial advisor, because they don't know there's an opportunity there, and B, they don't necessarily know how to do it, even if they do know the opportunity is there, or even when the right opportunity. And, kind of, I'll throw some air quotes on Roth conversions on that. We'll get to that type of a conversation in a later episode, but having money going into pre-tax accounts, so where you're getting the tax benefit right up front, right? Having money going into post-tax accounts like a Roth 401k, Roth IRA, where you're getting the tax-free distribution, at retirement. And, also having some taxable accounts, right? Where you're not bound by contribution limits or early withdrawal penalties. And you can also take advantage of intra-year tax loss harvesting opportunities if you know how to do it correctly. But also it's just an extra, call it an extra savings account past what's in your bank, right? And I really love your analogy here on this that you've used in the past, but a taxable account is essentially an emergency fund that is only utilized if you have an expense that breaks the bank, right? Doesn't break the bank, but it's an expense that's larger than what you have in cash. And just being able to fortify yourself with these account types that allows you to create a situation where you're being the most disciplined, but you're also creating the most efficient assets from a tax perspective. I think that's the most important.
I think you covered that really well. That's why I always say education is so powerful.
Yeah.
Because people don't know that having the flexibility of having different investment vehicles, having the pre-tax, the Roth, the non-qualified accounts, those make a huge impact. We've seen it on retirees' portfolios, because if you need a set amount of money, you have different places with which you can draw it from that will impact you in very different ways. Once you're retired, you're 65 plus, you're collecting Social Security, you're on Medicare. If you take money out of a pre-tax account, it's going to cause your taxable income to go up, could cause your Social Security to get taxed more, could cause your Medicare premiums to go up more. So, when you've got 20, 30, 10 plus years to be able to plan for this is something that we actively do. Most of your planning is going to come right in that 5 to 10 year window before retirement, because you have the most capability to make changes. That's why, we'll talk about Roth conversions another time, but that's why a lot of people don't have Roth IRAs. We're creating the diversity via Roth IRA conversions so that they have a taxable, a Roth, and an IRA account, right? So it's, having the diversity from both your investments and your investment account type is incredibly important later on in life.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, kind of segueing into part 3 here is diversifying your income streams as well. And I think that this is an important conversation to have both while you're working, but especially when you're in retirement, right? And I think if we focus kind of on the retirement picture here, is kind of, as you're alluding to, is having multiple sources of income that you can draw from that have different taxable events to them, right? So Social Security obviously is going to be a bedrock for most people's financial plans, at least from a fixed perspective, right? As long as you've paid in, it's going to happen. And then also having monies that, are maybe even outside of the traditional investment conversation, right? And then you look at somebody who's maybe working, I think that the trend line for a lot of people in our generation and our age, anywhere from 20s to 40s, is having some sort of a side hustle or a side business, whether, that could be a bunch of different things, from, rental real estate to, drop shipping, to having, your own clothing line or something of that nature, providing consulting services and the passion that you do, with your work. And, just having multiple sources of income to pull from and provide for, especially if something goes wrong, it's super important.
Yeah. And one thing I've noticed, in my time is that, the percentage of active income you have slides to become passive. Right? So early on, you're working, 100% of your income is from active working. It takes active planning to create passive income in the future. You don't just suddenly have a rental property. You don't just suddenly have massive amounts of dividend and income coming from investment accounts. Going back to our prior episode about the 4 financial skills you need to master, you need to plan for these. You need to have disciplined money management. You have to have good habits and understand how to get the most return on your time in order to make these passive income streams worthwhile. But that's why you have to have the goal. You have to have the idea of what you want planted, really understand it so that you can control your income in the future. And that, like, retiring early, that like slogan's gone away. It's FIRE now. It's financial independence, retirement earlier, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Where you control your own time. You can still go out and make a buck. It's not about sitting, on the beach all day and doing nothing. A lot of people want to work. A lot of people want to be active. And that's why being able to have both an active and passive income stream to be able to control what you want to do in life is it's incredibly important. And the happiest clients I have, most successful clients, did this early on and planned for it so that they can enjoy their retirement. And a lot of them aren't even fully retired. A lot of them are still doing part-time work, doing what they love to do. But having that passive income stream is what allowed them to take the risk to continue doing what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I really love what you were saying there. Can you say that again? It was
Active,
an active
um,
what?
I don't know, an active commitment to get passive income,
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
along those lines.
Absolutely. Yeah, we need to go back and clip that. but but yeah, that really just I think those three things just really sum up the diversification conversation at a deeper level than I think what most people kind of consider what diversification really is it's not just investments. It's tax advantages, it's income sources, it's time management, it's all these different things that can really sum up to creating a really good, really stable and solid financial foundation is utilizing these three different types of diversification in order to create the life that you want.
Yeah.
I think that's super important. Do you have anything else here to sum up?
No, I think we hit everything really well. Diversity isn't something, again, the last thing I'd say is the reason I really wanted to talk about this is because I recently had a client whose 401k was invested in 100% growth type of investments because I
Yeah.
said, what, how'd you come about this? Well, I just picked what did the best last year,
Yeah.
and that's common. There's nothing, wrong, right, or indifferent about it. It's just diversity is really important because you can have years in which the difference between value and growth. And there's other years where values underperforming growth, and having different allocations and different exposure to each of these different classes is kind of what it's proven to do well in the long run compared to having all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Well, thanks so much for everybody watching, listening, doing a little bit of both. And if anybody ever is wanting to dive into this conversation more, whether you're seeing us on YouTube, seeing us in the podcast format, or if you're seeing this on any sort of our social media platforms, please feel free, reach out to us, send us DMs. All of our contact info is on our YouTube channel, and we love the opportunity to talk with you, see if there's anything we can do to provide value. So Kyle, thanks so much again. Really appreciate it. And looking forward to the next episode.